So I feel like it's time for a rant slash story time, whatever you want to call it. But I picked up one of these today. Yes, the Mossberg Shockwave, the 14-inch barrel, 12 gauge firearm. I'll talk more about this gun in another video, but I've wanted one of these for a little while now. When they first started hitting the market, I kind of brushed them off, and I didn't want to like this. I did not want to like this firearm, and it has grown. The appearance of it and the basics behind it have grown on me so much that I started looking for one today. Actually, I started looking for one for a couple weeks. Found one today at a semi-local gun shop, and I went ahead and purchased it online and went and filled out my paperwork this evening and picked it up. That was an experience in itself. Normally, I stick to a couple of local shops for all of my firearms needs. One of them's owned by a family member. My cousin owns a shop here locally, and I used to do quite a bit of business through him. Haven't really bought a gun in a while, aside from the P17 that I did a video on previously. But I had to have one of these. And local gun shop didn't have anything coming in, and I found one and just went ahead and pulled the trigger on it. This story is about that rant. It's about new gun owners, and it's about the misinformation that people are getting. Fast forward to me picking up the firearm from the gun shop. I had to go in, I had to fill out my paperwork and do my background check and everything, which obviously came back clean. But anyway, I get to the shop and it's packed. This shop is just absolutely packed with people. Everybody in there buying something. They're either trying to buy ammo or they're buying firearms. Now, one of the things that I heard was that in order to buy 5.56 or 223, they were only selling it with a firearm. And that's a little bit, that just tells you a little about the state of things. And as I was standing at the counter, waiting to pick up my Mossberg Shockwave, I overheard a conversation, and this was from this was a conversation between a customer and a person working behind the counter. I will not mention the name of this particular gun store publicly because it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for them. So the customer was asking about an AR pistol, and he was asking about the difference between 5.56 and 223. So a quick and easy Google search will tell most people that it's perfectly acceptable to shoot 223 in a firearm that's chambered for 5.56, but you really shouldn't shoot 5.56 in a firearm that's chambered specifically for 223. What bothered me so much about this conversation was the fact that when the customer asked very specifically to look at, to handle this, it was an AR pistol. He asked about the chambering. He asked if it was chambered in 5.56 or if it was chambered in 223. The clerk behind the counter proceeded to tell him that it was chambered in 5.56. The customer asked, so can I shoot 223 through this? The guy's obviously, very obviously, a new gun owner. He hasn't researched much. He just knows that he needs an AR. He wants it, and he's going to buy one at some point or somewhere. And this clerk, with the most confidence that I have seen, with him just fully confident, tells this guy, no, this will only shoot 5.56. You can't shoot 223 in this. I was appalled. If you are just a random person talking to whoever, if you don't know the answer to a question, just be honest about it and tell them you don't know. But if you are a clerk in a gun store dealing with new gun owners and you're confidently telling someone wrong information, if you're giving a customer bad information because you don't know and you're not willing to admit that you don't know and ask someone else, you don't need to be working there. That's a job you don't need to have, or you need to educate yourself so that you're not giving new gun owners bad information. To me, that's as bad as giving bad information about gun laws. Making it up as you go along because you're too proud to admit that you don't know? What the hell is wrong with you? This guy was older. He was an older gentleman, probably in his 50s. The customer he might have been in his 60s. They were both older gentlemen. And the clerk, after I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I couldn't. And I spoke up and I said, "Sir, it's perfectly acceptable and perfectly fine for you to shoot .223 through a firearm that's chambered for 5.56. You shouldn't shoot 5.56 through a firearm that's chambered for .223 only." So after telling him this, the guy basically was like, I'm going to have to think about it. Now, what the guy really needed to do was go home and pull up Google on his computer and do some web surfing, do some internet research. YouTube is your best friend in some cases for a lot of people. A lot of people watching YouTube videos is how they learn a lot of things. YouTube is a cornucopia of firearms information. Some of it might not be the best. Find a reputable channel with a ton of subscribers and do some searching. But for a clerk in a store to be giving that kind of information to a customer because they don't know, what else are they telling them? What other kinds of bad information are they giving to customers of this store? How many customers are they costing that store? Not only that, if they're giving bad information about calibers, there's a good chance they're giving bad information about the operation of a firearm or training. Which brings me to my next part of the story. After the customer had walked away and left the store, this clerk, he's eyeballing me. And I engage him in a conversation. I say, "You guys probably have a lot of new firearms owners coming in right now, don't you?" And he just kind of laughs it off. I was like, "Yeah, it seems like every day there's people in here that are buying their first gun and they don't even know the first thing about cocking it or anything." And that's when he proceeds to talk to me about his training. I was an NRA instructor for a few years. I conducted NRA firearms courses. The reasons why I got out of that's a whole other segment of videos and an entirely different topic that we won't discuss here. But that does not make me an expert by any means, just because I was a trainer or just because I did something with the NRA. This guy tells me that he's combat trained. Doesn't know the difference between 5.56 and .223. He's combat trained. And he tells me that when he hired in, that they asked him what kind of experience and what kind of training he had. That he's combat trained. He proceeds to talk to me about how the rest of these guys, they do competition shooting and marksmanship shooting. And that he's not concerned with being a marksman. He's not concerned with hitting a little target way out there, as he says. He's concerned with his combat training. He's more familiar with pistols and close combat and being able to take someone out from in the same room or whatever bullshit he was trying to spout. Combat trained. Yeah. So he doesn't know anything about rifles or rifle calibers, but he's combat trained. And then he starts talking about how he has people come in asking about knives and whatnot, because this place also sells knives and blades, as he calls them. And that he carries a straight blade for the purpose of combat, of personal defense. Because if this is disabled, as he taps on his holster, this is right here on my side, and I can have this out and you'd be dead before you hit the ground. And he shows me this like chromed looking flea market knife, and the whole time I'm just looking at this guy, just kind of nodding my head, going along, whatever. And I'm waiting to pick up a gun. I just want to get my gun and leave. I've already paid for it. I just need to fill out my paperwork and get out of this mess. I don't want to talk to this guy. But then he starts talking. He starts talking at me, telling me how he's a martial arts instructor, and that they work with the blades that he works with, and how he teaches Filipino martial arts. And I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, dude, you're like 55 and fat, and you don't have a clue what you're talking about. I'm fat too, but come on, I don't tell people I'm a martial arts instructor. Get out of here. So this guy, if he's teaching martial arts, by all means, he may have done some amazing things in the past in his life. He may be very knowledgeable about some things. But if he's a martial arts instructor, chances are it's not a paid gig, or, well, he wouldn't be working in a gun shop. And it's probably just to people that he knows, or their kids, maybe some kind of, something like that. Nothing too serious, I would say. This guy was a straight up, damn near legit mall ninja to the core, working in a gun shop, dealing with customers that are new gun owners, feeding them bullshit information on a daily basis. If you own a gun shop, or if you work at a gun shop as a clerk, please stop. If you're doing it, if you don't know, ask somebody or find out later. Don't give bad information to new gun owners. You are hurting all of us if you do that. You are hurting the gun community as a whole, as much of a shit show community as it is. The gun community's been eating itself for years, and it's going to continue to do so until it's completely gone. But again, another topic of discussion. If you've made it this far into my little rant, my little story time, I appreciate the views. I appreciate you watching my video. Thank you. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. Check out some of the other projects that I have going on. As you can see behind me, all the action figures. I have a toy channel. I also have a music channel where I work on different musical projects and whatnot. Mostly my band. And, there's more videos. You know what? It's warming up and I can get out and do stuff. I'll be making more videos for the channel here. I really need to get some content going. So, thanks for watching Gunslinger Firearms and Gear.